Let's begin by offering our respects to ISKCON founder Acharya, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Om Agyana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Hey Krishna, Karuna Sindhu, Dina Bandhu, Jagatpate, Gopesha, Gopika Kanta, Radha Kanta, Namostute. Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi, Radhe Vrindavaneshwari, Rishabhanu Sute Devi, Pranamami, Hari Priya. Vancha Kalpa Taruvyascha, Kripa Sindhu Vyaevacha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo, Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Shrivasati, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Please repeat after me. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Okay, so welcome all of you to our weekly Bhagavad Gita classes. Thank you all very much for joining. We have with us here Ritu Lalwani, Divya, Durga Prasad, Jagrati, Karuna Jadwani, Lal and Mehak Melwani. Then we have Lavina, Bhumika, Manju, N.C. Venkatchari, Auntie Neeta is there. Then we have Pavani, my parents are there. And then we have Vivansh and we have Meenakshi. Okay, so what did we see in the previous class?
We finished chapter 7.
Yes, we finished chapter number 7. Very nice. So what did we see in chapter 7?
There are 4 types of devotee. You can see that. And first one is
So we saw the different kinds of devotees. Here we saw Sakama Bhaktas. Sakama Bhaktas are those who surrender to Krishna, but they're expecting something in return. So the Sakama Bhaktas are those people who render devotional service when they are distressed, when they are desiring wealth, or when they are inquisitive. Then there is a fourth category of people who surrender to Krishna. The fourth category are the jnanis, who they are searching for knowledge of the absolute. So they are called as the Jnana Mishra Bhaktas. Their bhakti is mixed with jnana. It's not pure bhakti. It is not a pure devotional service. So it's called Jnana Mishra. Mishra means mixed. The bhakti is mixed with desire for jnana. So they are called as a Jnana Mishra Bhaktas. So one category is the Sakama Bhaktas, these three, the desire of wealth, the distress, and the inquisitive. And then second category here we saw those who are searching for absolute, for knowledge of the absolute. So they are the Jnana Mishra Bhaktas. Then towards the end of the chapter, here we saw this intelligent persons who are endeavoring for liberation from old age. So these categories of people who are endeavoring for liberation from old age and death, they want mukti. So they are called as moksha kami bhaktas. They are devotees who are desiring for liberation. So even this is not pure devotion, pure bhakti. Pure bhakti means, as we have discussed previously, is anya abhilashita shunyam. There is no other desire other than to please the Lord, other than to serve the Lord. So a pure devotee or pure bhakti means there is no desire even for liberation. So these are the categories that we saw in this chapter. The moksha kamis, the Jnana Mishra Bhaktas, the Sakama Bhaktas, and we also discussed what is pure bhakti. And here towards the end of the chapter, we saw Krishna using some technical terms, and we said how this is going to be the connecting link for the next chapter. So see, what are these terms that Krishna used here? Brahma, Adhyatma, and Karma. So these terms from this second last verse of the chapter and the other terms here, Adi Bhutam, then Adi Daivam, and Adi Yagyam. So these terms, these technical terms, Arjuna is going to inquire from Krishna in the beginning of chapter number 8. So this is what connects us to the next chapter. Does anybody have any doubt from the previous class? We had a homework.
Mataji, can I ask you a question about that thing? What you said, Adi, what that on chapter 8 they're going to do some. So Krishna is known by Supreme Personality of Godhead, by his devotees, or by these three names?
Okay, give me a minute. I need to close the window. There's a lot of background noise. I'll be back. Okay, sorry. Yeah, so these technical terms means, let me go back to the, you want to know the meanings of these terms. See here, Prabhupada writes, Adi Bhuta means he's the governing principle of material manifestation. Adi Daiva means he's the governor of all the Devatas. And Adi Yagyam, governor of all sacrifices. This is what it means.
So basically, but by devotees, is Krishna known by Supreme Personality of Godhead, that name, or by Adi Devam, Adi Bhute?
Yeah, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is Adi Bhuta, is Adi Daivam, is Adi Yagya. It's the same thing. Is it clear? I can't hear you. Okay. So there was a homework. Why is this? What is the title of this chapter?
Attaining the Supreme.
No,
Knowledge
chapter
of-
7 is titled Knowledge of the
Knowledge of the absolute.
And the homework was why the title Knowledge of the Absolute? Why not Knowledge of God? So was anybody able to find out the answer?
No.
The answer to this is in the opening. Actually, the answer to this question are the opening lines of the Srimad Bhagavatam. If you go to the introduction, okay, actually, let's go to the introduction. 1 second. You go to your Veda base, you have your Srimad Bhagavatam here. And in the introduction, Srila Prabhupada begins the introduction with these lines. The conception of God and the conception of absolute truth are not at the same level. They are not at the same level. That's why the title of this chapter is Knowledge of the Absolute, not Knowledge of God. So what is the difference between God and absolute truth? So Srila Prabhupada explains that the conception of God indicates the controller, whereas the conception of the absolute truth indicates the summum bonum of the ultimate source of all energies, which means there are many gods, there are many controllers, right? There is someone who's responsible for sunlight, somebody is a finance minister, somebody is the education minister. Like that, there are different controllers for different categories or for different functions of the universe. But absolute truth means that person who's the ultimate source of all these gods, who's the ultimate source of all energies. So therefore, if you read this whole thing, it's very, very interesting what Srila Prabhupada writes here. You can read it at home. So the reason why this chapter is titled Knowledge of the Absolute is because the conception of God and conception of absolute truth is not at the same level. God can be a controller, any controller, and there are many gods, we know. But absolute truth is that person who's the source of all these other gods, who is the summum bonum, who from whom everything else originates, from whom everything else, every entity and every single thing in the creation, in the spiritual, in the material world, everything originates from that person, from that absolute truth. So therefore, this chapter is titled Knowledge of the Absolute. Okay.
But according to the meaning of both conception of God and conception of absolute truth, it looks like same. Means
Yeah, it appears to be same, but there is a difference. The difference is, as Prabhupada explains here, concept of God means indicates the controller, but not necessarily the supreme controller. For example, when it comes to the Department of Finance, who's a controller? Lakshmi Devi, right?
Okay.
When it comes to knowledge, who's the controller? It is Goddess Saraswati. Therefore, a student before the exam will worship Goddess Saraswati, will not worship Goddess Lakshmi, because she is the controller for knowledge. But absolute truth means that which is the source of everything that exists.
So that means conception of God, conception of absolute truth is higher level than conception of God, isn't it?
Yes, it is the highest level.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Another thing that was pending from this chapter 7 is we said we will discuss, but we didn't discuss this particular subject matter. See here, in verse 18, Krishna is talking about how all these devotees are magnanimous souls. Who are all these devotees? The 4 categories of people who surrender to Krishna, right? So this is what Krishna is talking about in this verse, saying that all these devotees are undoubtedly magnanimous souls, but he who is situated in knowledge of me I consider to be just like my own self. So that jnani who surrenders to Krishna, Krishna is considering him to be equal to himself. So with relation to this, there is one more verse. Where did I put those slides?
Does that mean Mataji Gyanis are pure devotees?
They become pure devotees. When they start off, they are not pure devotees, but they become pure devotees.
So this sentence you said equal to Krishna, that means after they become pure devotees, then they're equal to Krishna?
Yes, they are not equal to Krishna. Krishna considers them to be equal. Nobody can be equal. Krishna considers them to be equal. Okay, I'm not able to find those slides. Okay, doesn't matter. Let's go to the database. 1 second. CC are the 6. If you go to your Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Leela, chapter number 6. See here, verse number 100. The position of being a devotee is higher than that of equality with Lord Krishna, for the devotees are dearer to Lord Krishna than his own self. Okay. Lord Krishna considers his devotees greater than himself. In this connection, the scriptures provide an abundance of evidence. So this is the author speaking. Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami spoke these 2 verses. And now he is quoting from Uddhava Gita. Uddhava Gita is a conversation between Lord Krishna and Uddhava just before Krishna departed from the planet. So that conversation is called as Uddhava Gita. So in that Uddhava Gita, Krishna told Uddhava, O Uddhava, neither Brahma, nor Shankara, nor Sankarshana, nor Lakshmi, nor even my own self is as dear to me as you. So this is for those devotees, those pure devotees who are having spontaneous love for Krishna. Those pure devotees who have spontaneous love for Krishna, Krishna considers them to be even greater than his own self. So just see the position of becoming a pure devotee. The sweetness of Lord Krishna is not to be tasted by those who consider themselves equal to Krishna. It is to be tasted only through the sentiment of servitude. So one should not misunderstand. Although Krishna considers the pure devotees to be even greater than his own self, still one must not consider that we are equal to Krishna. Never we can become equal to Krishna. This sweetness can be tasted only through the sentiment of servitude. If we have the service attitude, if we consider ourselves and we believe and we behave in such a way as the servants of Lord Krishna, only then we can taste the nectar. So this was one verse that I also wanted to bring up. Even there is one verse which says that at the time of initiation, Lord Krishna considers the candidate who's taking initiation to be equal to himself. That verse also is there. Let me see if I can bring it up quickly. 1 second. Antya 4:192. So this is also in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. This is in Antya Lila, chapter 4. See, chapter 4, verse 192. At the time of initiation, when a devotee fully surrenders unto the service of the Lord, Krishna accepts him to be as good as himself. So, pretty far out. At the time of initiation, Krishna accepts the devotee as good as himself. This is another important verse I wanted to share with this regard. Very interesting chapters. You can read these at your free time. Okay. Are we ready for chapter 8? Yes, no, maybe.
Yes. Yes.
Who can read today? Okay, Vivansh. Thank you. Okay, chapter 8 is titled Attaining the Supreme. It has a total of 28 verses. But of course, before we start reading the chapter, we need to understand what is the importance of this particular chapter. So we know that the Gita Mahatmya is a conversation between Lord Shiva and Goddess Parvati, and it comes within the Padma Purana. And the Padma Purana is a conversation between Lord Vishnu and Goddess Lakshmi. So Lord Shiva says, My dear Parvati, now please listen to the glories of the 8th chapter of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. After listening to this, you will feel great joy. So Lord Shiva is explaining that in the south, there is a town called Amart Kapur. In that town, there was a Brahmana by the name Bhava Sharma. And this Bhava Sharma had taken a prostitute to be his wife. Bhava Sharma enjoyed meat eating, drinking wine, stealing, going to others' wives, and hunting. So one day it so happened that Bhava Sharma was invited to a party and he drank so much alcohol in that party that it started to come out of his mouth. So to that extent, he was drinking. After that party, he became very sick and he suffered for many days and eventually he died. Now, after he died, he attained the body of a date palm tree. Now, one day it so happened that there were two Brahma Rakshasas. Who are Brahma Rakshasas? Does anybody know? Brahma Rakshas? There are even temples of Brahma Rakshasas.
People who believe that Krishna's light, I don't know. But I think.
No. Brahma Rakshas. So in the previous life, they were
Brahman.
Yeah, they were Brahmanas in their previous life. So when somebody is a Brahmana and he misbehaves being a Brahmana, then that is a more serious crime. So that time they become Brahma Rakshas. Okay, they are even more dangerous than the normal ghosts and spirits. It's very hard to get rid of them. And that's why they are even worshipped in some temples.
But
Okay.
they die by unnatural death or by
Yeah, it
by
can be that they become Brahma Rakshas because of an unnatural death. It can also be because their children did not do the final rites and rituals for them. But it can also be because they led a very sinful life. Then they become Brahma Rakshas. Okay, so here there were two Brahma Rakshasas. They came and they took shelter of that tree. Which tree? Which tree?
dates, palm tree.
Date palm tree. Who has become a date palm tree now?
That Brahman.
Yeah, what's his name?
I forgot something starting with B or something.
Yes. Yes. His name is? Come on. Jeev Jago, wake up. His name is Bhava Sharma. Okay.
Oh, sure. Yes, yes.
Okay. So now these two Brahma Rakshasas, they were actually they have a previous life story. So what is the previous life story is that they were husband and wife, and also Brahmanas. The husband's name is Kushibal and the wife's name is Kumati. So the husband, he was very learned in the Vedas, and he had studied all the branches of the Vedic knowledge. And the wife, who was Kumati, just as how her name says, Kumati, she was very evil-minded. Now this couple, they are Brahmanas, they're very learned, but they were very greedy also. So they would, along with the wife, this Brahman, Kushibal, he would go and collect a lot of charity every day. Brahmanas, they collect charity, but they would never give charity to other Brahmanas. Actually, Brahmanas, they have, there are 6 occupational duties of a Brahmana. What are they? Patan, Yajna, and Dan, Pratigraha. What are these 6? They have to study Vedic knowledge. They also have to teach Vedic knowledge. Then Yajna is they have to perform fire sacrifices, yagyas, and they also have to perform fire sacrifices for the others. For example, if some Kshatriya, some Shudra, or some Vaishya wants to do Vedic sacrifices, they do it for them. So this is their other 2 duties. And last, Dan Pratigraha means they receive charity, and they also, when they have excess, they also have to give in charity. So if a Brahmana receives more than he requires for his maintenance, it is his duty to give away the excess. He should not collect them for himself. Okay, so these are the 6 duties of a Brahmana. So these people, Kushibal and Kumati,
Can I ask you a question?
What's that?
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
If they have to, any Shudra have to do fire sacrification in a house, then does Brahmins go to their house also for doing?
Yes, they do for others. So when they do for others, they go to their homes. And actually, Brahman's duty is when they go to the homes to do these yagyas, they also have to give some spiritual knowledge, some Vedic knowledge, some spiritual knowledge, and explain to them that, okay, my dear friend, it's very nice that you're doing these yagyas, but actually the goal of human life is to go back home, back to Godhead. Like that, it's also their duty to give Vedic knowledge.
Yeah, it means according, like people nowadays, they say Brahman should not enter in the house of Shudras because of low caste and all these things.
No, it's their duty actually. It is their duty to do yagyas for the other varnas in the society. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so here, as we discussed that they would collect charity, but they would never give charity to any other Brahmana. And therefore, when their time came, when death struck, they both became Brahma Rakshasas because they misused their Brahmanical body. Now, as Brahma Rakshasas, they were wandering here and there, and they were suffering from hunger and thirst. Why are they suffering from hunger and thirst?
Because they are Brahma Rakshas. In the form of Brahma Rakshas, they can't eat nor can they drink. Even if it is offered, they'll not be able to drink and eat something.
Yes, because they don't have the gross body. So therefore, the subtle body is there, but there is no gross body. So they are feeling hungry, they are feeling thirsty, but they don't have the gross body to eat and satisfy their hunger and thirst. So it's very frustrating situation. No? See, if my Guru Maharaj always says that if somebody commits suicide, they will become a Rakshas. But if a Brahman commits suicide, then he'll become a Brahma Rakshas. It is a more serious crime. So when one is a Brahman, one has to be even more careful. Okay. So now it so happened that these 2 Brahma Rakshasas, they have rested under that same date palm tree, which the form that Bhava Sharma has taken, his next lifetime as a tree. So at that time, the wife is inquiring from the husband, how can we get free from this curse of being Brahma Rakshasas? So the Brahman husband is replying, by knowledge of Brahma, by knowledge of the self, by knowledge of fruitive activities. Without such knowledge, it is not possible to get free from our sinful reactions. So now upon hearing this, the wife is asking the husband, oh my dear Lord, what is Brahma? What is the self? What are fruitive activities? Kim tat Brahma? Kim Adhyatmam? Kim Karma Purushottama? So actually, by accident, the wife happened to chant the half shloka of the first, half of the first shloka of chapter number 8. So because these are the opening lines of this particular chapter. So by accident, she has happened to chant the chant half of the first shloka of chapter number 8. So after hearing that half shloka, Bhava Sharma, who was in that body of that tree, that date palm tree, he broke free from that tree, and again he has attained the body of a Brahmana. Now he is completely freed from all the sinful activities that he did when he was that Brahman. Then from the sky, a flower airplane arrives and has taken the husband and the wife back to Vaikuntha. Now who is left? Who has not yet gone back to the spiritual world?
Bhava Sharma.
Yes, Bhava Sharma. So now that Brahmana Bhava Sharma, with great respect, he wrote down that half shloka, what Kumati had uttered. He writes that down with a lot of respect. And then he goes to Kashipuri, and there he does a lot of tapasya, a lot of austerities, and continuously he's chanting half of that half shloka. He's continuously chanting. Then meanwhile in Vaikuntha, Goddess Lakshmi, she sees Lord Vishnu has suddenly risen. He has gotten up and he's so then she inquires from him, why did you rise so suddenly from your sleep? That time Lord Vishnu tells that, my dear Lakshmi, in Kashipuri, on the banks of the river Ganges, my devotee is performing great austerities. And continuously he's chanting half a shloka of chapter 8 of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. So then he says that for a long time I have been thinking how to give him devotion, how to give him bhakti. Then Parvati inquires from Lord Shiva, when Lord Vishnu was so pleased with his devotee, what benediction, what blessing did he give him? That time Lord Shiva tells her, Bhava Sharma went to Vaikuntha to engage in the eternal service of the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu. Not only that, but all of his ancestors also attained the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu. So this chapter ends by saying, my dear Parvati, I have described to you just a little of the glories of the 8th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita. So this is just a small, tiny bit of the glories of this particular chapter. Okay, so what's the Falashruti? The benefit of reading, reciting, learning this particular chapter, or hearing also, it burns sinful reactions. It burns the desire to engage in sinful activities. It cleans our consciousness. Krishna Bhakti will be established in the heart. And it also helps the departed attain better destination, because we saw how the previous generations of Bhava Sharma also were benefited because of this particular chanting. Actually, the more we advance, when we advance more and more, the generations before and after us also will be benefited. So if we want to do something for our previous generations, then we try to become better devotees. We try to advance more and more. The more we advance, the better devotees we become. Our ancestors before and after us also will be automatically benefited. Okay, so when we did chapter 7, we discussed how Krishna has two aspects, Madhurya and Aishwarya, the sweetness and opulence. And we discussed how both are important. We need to understand the opulence of Krishna, because then we will realize his supreme position. And we need to understand the sweetness of Krishna, because then we can fall in love with Krishna because of his sweetness. If we only know his sweetness and not his opulence, then we will misunderstand Krishna to be an ordinary person. Oh, okay, what's the big deal? He's stealing butter. So what, even my son does such naughty activities. So we will think that he's an ordinary person. But when we know that the most opulent person, the one who's full in all opulences, the supreme personality of God, the absolute truth, is actually engaging in these childlike activities of stealing butter, then we will fall in love with him. And if we only know the opulence, then our relationship with the Lord will be of only reverential. No, we may not be able to fall in love with that person, because we have respect and reverence. So that formality will be there. And we discussed that chapter 7 speaks about which of these two aspects of Krishna? Does anybody remember? In chapter 7, we saw the sweetness of Krishna or we saw the opulence of Krishna? When Krishna talks about people who surrender to him, don't surrender to him, when he says that he's Adi Yagya, Adi Bhaut, Adi, he's a supreme controller of all material manifestation and all those things, then what is he showing? His sweetness or his opulence?
Opulence. Showing his
Opulence.
opulence.
Yes. So chapter 8 also talks about the opulence of Krishna. So Aishwarya Jnana we get in chapter 7 and 8. Madhurya Jnana, knowledge about his sweetness, we will see in chapter 9. And both together we'll see in 10, 11 and 12. So this is the middle section of the Bhagavad Gita. Now let us take some examples. Krishna expanding as Mahavishnu who is creating universes from his breathing. This is opulence or this is sweetness?
Opulence.
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 Yes, opulence, isn't it? Opulence of power. Then what is happening here?
Krishna is showing the Vishwarupa to Arjuna.
Yes, very nice, Saket. So Krishna is showing the universal form or the Vishwarupa as he said. And this is what? Opulence or sweetness?
Sweetness.
Opulence.
Opulence, isn't it? So this is again his opulence of strength and his power. Now what is happening here?
He's teaching Gita Gyan.
Okay, anybody else? If you see
No,
closely,
He's acting
showing
as
his
a chariot driver of Arjuna.
okay,
No,
what
he's
else?
showing his four-handed form to Krishna.
Ah, Krishna is showing the four-handed form to Arjuna. And then again he shows him the
Two-handed form.
Opulence.
two-handed form. So when does this happen?
In the 11th chapter, after showing his
After showing his Virat Roop.
Virat Roop.
Exactly. Upon Arjuna's request, then Krishna, after showing the universal form, he shows the four-handed form and then the two-handed form. So this is what? Krishna's opulence or sweetness?
Opulence.
Okay. Why?
No, I think it's sweetness
No,
because
this
they
is-
show a lesser version so that Arjuna can see, because he was very much like puzzled after seeing the Vishwarupa.
Yeah, it is a sweetness because he has complied to the request of his devotee. So this here Krishna is showing him his sweetness.
Sweetness.
What's happening here? Which demon is being killed? Who is this 8-mile long snake demon that Krishna killed when he was 5 years old? This demon's name starts with an A. Aghasura, yes, very nice. So this represents his strength because this demon was 8 miles long, and when he opened his mouth, his upper jaw was touching the sky, right? And the gopas, they thought that this is a huge cave, mountain, and they entered. So this represents his opulence. Is there anything sweet about this pastime?
he saved his Gopa's friend.
Yes, he saved his friends. So that is his sweetness, that he is being very protective about the Brajavasis. What is happening here? Which Leela is this?
This is when Brahma.
Mataji, when Brahma steals the calves and gopis.
Yes, Brahma Vimohana Leela, when Lord Brahma stole the calves and the Gopa friends of Krishna. So this is what? Opulence or sweetness?
Both.
Both. So why do you say both?
Because he freed his devotees from Brahma, but not only that, he also showed his power to Brahma.
He shows his power to Brahma, therefore opulence.
That is.
So he's showing his opulence
That
of
is,
power by expanding as all the boys and the calves. And he's
Mm.
showing his sweetness because he expanded. Now, why did he expand himself as each of these boys and each of these calves? So that the mothers of the mothers of these calves and these boys would not be devastated. No, they should not be morose. They should not be sad. So therefore, he expanded so that the mothers are happy. And in fact, the description given is that the mothers were showering more love and affection to these boys and calves whom Krishna has expanded as than they were giving to their original calves and boys, because of course this is Krishna.
Mm.
Okay, what is happening here?
He's exchanging his their food among them, among gopas and gopis in the forest.
Yes,
While
yeah, they are exchanging, they are eating, taking food together, they're eating prasad together, and they are all, Krishna is actually taking the juta of the other Gopa friends. Okay, so this shows his sweetness. Okay. And here, this is when actually after the killing of Aghasura, Lord Brahma comes to see who is this boy. Is he the Supreme Personality of Godhead? The one who killed Aghasura, and he's just 5 years old. So that time Lord Brahma came to see him, and that time Krishna was exchanging lunch boxes. So he's like, this boy is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Let me also show my power. And that's when the Brahma Vimohana Leela took place.
Mm.
What is happening here?
taking
Krishna
Govardhan.
left the Govardhana hill.
So this is what? Opulence or sweetness?
Sweetness.
Sweetness
Both.
as well as opulence.
Both opulence and sweetness. So what is opulent about this?
He's
Opulence.
saving all the residents of Vrindavan.
So that is sweetness or opulence?
That is sweetness.
That
That's
is sweetness. And what is opulent about this pastime?
Carrying the
He's carrying.
Carrying the
Govardhan
Govardhana
with
hill on
little
his
finger of the left hand.
Yes, exactly. So
So
here
he's-
again, he is showing his power and also he is showing his sweetness that by protecting the residents of Vrindavan. What is happening here?
This is
Killing Sisupala.
The killing of Shishupal. So this is what? Opulence or sweetness?
opulence.
Opulence. Both.
What opulence?
Both.
Okay, if you say both, then why both? What is opulent about this and what is sweet about this?
Wait, no. No, like opulence because he killed, I forgot his name, but he killed him because he showed his strength.
Okay. And what is sweet?
Sweetness that as he promised his aunt
Devotees.
to forgive Shishupala for 108 eight mistakes which he did, and afterwards he'll just kill him.
Okay, very nice. Can you think of anything else that is more sweet or that is sweet in this pastime? When did this happen?
At the when Yudhishthira did the yagya.
Yes, during the Ratsuya Yagya, no? Ratsuya sacrifice that would establish Yudhishthira as the emperor of the world. So at that time, Shishupal was killed. So actually, Krishna, he finished off the matter quickly by killing Shishupal so that there is no big bloodbath because he didn't want to spoil the Yagya of Yudhishthira. So that is sweet about this pastime. What's happening here?
On the Kali Nag.
The killing
he was
of
in
un,
Killing? There is no killing. Krishna did not kill Kalia.
Yeah,
He's
as he was
subdued.
dancing on the dead.
dancing.
Yeah. He's dancing on Kalia. So he subdued Kalia. He did not kill Kalia. So what is his opulence or sweetness?
That's
Opulence.
What is opulent about this?
He controlled such a deadly, such
Yes.
a powerful.
Yes. Yes, him subduing him shows his opulence of power. And is there any sweetness in this?
Yes,
Yeah, because he let
He did
him
not
go
kill
with
him.
his
He
wife.
did not kill him.
He did not kill him. Why he didn't kill him?
His wife, I think, requested or he asked for forgiveness.
Yes, the wives offered prayers and they begged that Krishna, please do not kill him. So therefore, he blessed the Naga Patnis and he did not kill Kalia. So his dancing was attractive and sweet. There are only two demons that Krishna did not kill. One was Kalia. Who was the other one?
Banasura.
Yes, Banasura. Banasura had 1,000 arms. Krishna cut all his arms except 4. So that way he has again shown his sweetness in this pastime of Banasura. So these are the only two demons that Krishna did not kill. Why he didn't kill Banasura?
Lord Shiva asked them because he promised that he wouldn't kill any of Prahlad's and something.
ancestors.
Yeah, Banasura was a devotee of Lord Shiva, and Lord Shiva requested Krishna not to kill Banasura. And then, so therefore, Krishna cut his 996 arms, but then he left him with 4 arms. And yes, also because he's in the lineage of Prahlad. Very nice, Saket. What's happening here?
There was a fruit seller who came to sell, not to sell, actually, she came in the house of in the house of Krishna, and when she saw Krishna, she started giving him fruits so that he can eat and give her the blessings of when she saw Krishna, she was so overwhelmed. So
Yes, and in exchange, Krishna filled her basket with
With
diamond
very precious diamonds and
yes,
jewelry.
yes, it was full of jewelry. Actually,
Really?
she was a fruit seller. She was a fruit seller. And Krishna said that I want these fruits, but what I have nothing to give you, I can give you some grains. So as he was bringing grains from inside the home, all his hands are so small, all the grains would fall, and he had just 1 or 2 grains left. And she very happily received that in exchange of the fruits because she was so enamored. She completely fell in love with Krishna. No? And then in exchange, Krishna filled her basket with precious jewelry. So what is this, opulence or sweetness?
Sweetness.
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 Sweetness. Is there anything opulent?
Yes.
What?
The power of changing all the fruits into jewels. I guess.
When he is filling that basket with jewelry, that shows his opulence, okay, of wealth. What is happening here?
they are taking Krishna is taking cows and calves in the forest for
Grazing.
So
grazing.
this
Yeah,
is opulence or sweetness?
that's sweetness.
Sweetness.
Sweetness. How many cows Nanda Maharaj had?
1 lakh or something.
900,000, 9 lakhs. Okay, 9 lakh cows Nanda Maharaj had, and he would take them for this thing. Krishna stealing butter, opulence or sweetness?
Sweetness.
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 And him, when Mother Yashoda tried to tie him, was it easy to tie him?
Opulence and sweetness.
Yes.
Both.
No,
It
it was
was not easy to tie him. Every
easy.
time she brought the ropes together, it was falling short by 2 inches. So this is opulence or sweetness?
Opulence and
Opulence.
sweetness.
Opulence,
Opulence.
yes, because Krishna is saying, you cannot tie me until I agree to be bound. So he's showing his opulence here.
But finally, she tied,
So,
right?
Yeah, finally she tied him because Krishna agreed to be bound. So you cannot bind Krishna unless he agrees.
He let her die.
Yes, yes. Now what's happening here?
Krishna freed the 2 demigods after they
when
were given a curse that they
Yes.
both became trees, and that happened during the Damodara Leela.
Yeah, what are their names?
I forgot
Mat-
their names.
Who knows the names of these two sons of Kuber?
Vijay or something, and Kul, um,
Yamala and Arjuna.
yeah,
Yamala Arjuna trees. No, they were Yamala Arjuna trees, but I want to know the names of the sons of Kuber who had become those trees.
Mangriva and Nalakuvera.
Yes, exactly. Manigriva and Nalakuvera. Very nice. So this is what? Opulence or sweetness?
Both.
Opulence.
Both are only opulence.
Shows the opulence of strength. Okay. So coming back to our chapter, this was just to give an understanding of sweetness and opulence and how so many leelas display both actually, and why these leelas are displaying opulence and displaying uh, sweetness is because we need to understand both the aspects. Of course, for the residents of Rajavasis or for those devotees who are on the spontaneous level of bhakti, for them the sweetness is completely overshadowing the opulence aspect of Krishna. For example, for Mother Yashoda, it's only the sweetness, no? She sees a universal form. She sees the entire cosmic manifestation of Krishna's mouth. But still, for her, this is my Lala. This is my Krishna. I have to protect him from the demons. That is Mother Yashoda's mood. So for her, the sweetness is completely overpowering the opulence aspect of Krishna. And this is how it is with Vrajavasis, his friends, his Gopa friends, the gopis. In all the Vrajavasis, for them, the sweetness is more prominent. In Goloka Vrindavan, the sweetness of Krishna is more opulent. In the Vaikuntha planets, the opulence of the Lord is more prominent. So, connecting link between 7 and 8 are these terms which we have already discussed. So, connection between chapter 7 and chapter 8. In the last two verses of chapter 7, the Lord used 6 technical terms. Arjuna asks for clarification of these terms and thus asks 7 questions in the first 2 verses of this chapter. So Krishna answers the first 6 questions very quickly in this chapter, and then the rest of the chapter is more based on the last question of Arjuna, which we will see. So this chapter is divided into 6 sections. We will see them as we go. So we see in the first 4 verses, Arjuna's 7 questions and Krishna's answer to 6 of those 7 questions. Let's hear the shloka.
अथाष्टमोऽध्यायः अर्जुन उवाच किं तद्ब्रह्म किमध्यात्मम् किं कर्म पुरुषोत्तम अधिभूतं च किं प्रोक्तम् अधिदैवं किमुच्यते अधियज्ञ.
Translation. Arjuna inquired, O my Lord, O Supreme Person, what is Brahman? What is the Self? What are fruitive activities? What is this material manifestation, and what are the demigods? Please explain this to me.
So, as we said, Arjuna is inquiring about the meaning of these technical terms. Kim Tat Brahma, what is Brahma? Kim Adhyatman, what is Adhyatma? Kim Karma, what is this karma? What are these fruitive activities? What is Adi Bhuta? What is Adi Daiva? And here, Arjuna is referring to Krishna by the name Purushottama. What does that name Purushottam mean?
सब पुरुषों में उत्तम होने
The supreme person, isn't it? Purusha and Uttama. Uttama means topmost and Purusha means person. So the topmost person. So why is Arjuna calling Krishna Purushottam here? What could be the context? By indicating that Krishna is Purushottam, what Arjuna is saying is, okay, I have these questions, and Krishna is not just my friend, but he is the Purushottam. He is the topmost person. So he can give me definitive answers. No, Krishna will give him definitive answers. Krishna will give him authoritative answers. Therefore, here Arjuna is calling him by the name Purushottam. So how many terms is Arjuna requiring from here? One is Brahman, two self, three fruitive activities, what is material manifestation, and what are the demigods. These 5 terms Arjuna is inquiring from in verse number 1. Then let's see second verse.
यः कथं कोत्र देहेऽस्मिन् मधुसूदन प्रयाणकाले च कथं ज्ञेयोऽसि नियतात्मभिः श्रीभगवानुवाच अक्षरमनुवाच.
Translation. Who is the Lord of sacrifice, and how does he live in the body? O Madhusana, and how can those engaged in the body of devotional service know you at the time of death?
So 5 questions he has asked in the first shloka. Here he is asking the 6th and the 7th question. 6th question, who is the Lord of sacrifice? Who is Adi Yagya, and how does he live in the body? And the 7th question, how can those engaged in devotional service know you at the time of death? So see, Prayana Kale, at the time of death, Prayana Kale, how can one know you, O Madhusudana? Now, this last question is, the answer to this last question forms the basis of chapter number 8, because this is a very, very important, very, very crucial question as to how we can know Krishna at the time of death, because your whole activity, everything culminates down to the point of death. What is one's consciousness? What is one thinking at the time of death? That determines the next body. So now Arjuna inquires about the 6th term Adi Yagya. By inquiring about Adi Yagya, Arjuna wants to understand the identity of the one who is ultimately worshipped by the performance of sacrifice. So whom are we worshipping when we do yagyas? Are we worshipping Vishnu? Are we worshipping a Devata? And whoever that person is, where in the body does he live? And then in this verse, Arjuna asks an additional question, the answer to which becomes the major topic in this chapter, which is, how can we know you at the time of death? So this is Arjuna's crucial question. Now, why is this question so important? We'll see this verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam. The highest perfection of human life, achieved either by complete knowledge of matter and spirit, by practice of mystic powers, or by perfect discharge of occupational duty, is to remember the personality of Godhead at the end of life. So the highest perfection of human life is to remember the Lord at the end of life. This is the key to what our future destination is going to be. Now let us see Krishna's answer.
अनुवाच अक्षरं ब्रह्म परमं स्वभावोऽध्यात्ममुच्यते भूतभावोद्भवकरो विसर्गः कर्मसंज्ञितः.
Translation. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said the indestructible, transcendental, living entity is called Brahman, and his internal nature is called Adhyatma, the self. Action pertaining to the development of material bodies of the living entities is called karma, or fruitive activities.
So here Krishna is answering the meaning of the first 3 terms. He is explaining what is Brahman, what is Adhyatma, and what is Karma. So the indestructible, transcendental living entity is called Brahman, Krishna is saying. So the Jiva, the soul, is Brahman. Then the eternal nature of the living entity is called Adhyatma. What is the nature? By nature, all of us are eternal servants of the Lord. So that is Adhyatma. And what is Karma? Actions but pertaining to the development of material bodies, which means our activities that are going to give us the other bodies, material bodies, then those are called fruitive activities. Those activities which are not done keeping the Lord in the center, those activities which are materialistic, those activities which are for our own sense gratification, they are called karma, Krishna is saying. So here very quickly he answers the meaning of the first three terms. See. So here we have a summary of what Krishna has just explained. So the swabhava, or the inherent nature of the self, adhyatma, is to serve the supreme. By nature, our thing is to serve, to be servants. So in answering Arjuna's first three questions, Krishna has clarified the difference between the body and the soul. 2, he explains the difference between the activity of the body, which causes the soul's bondage, and the spiritual activity of the soul executed in the material world, which causes neither karma nor bondage. So when we engage in spiritual activities, when we engage in devotional activities, then it does not cause any bondage. The activity may be the same, but the consciousness with which we are doing the activity is different. For example, we eat food, but if we offer the food before eating, when we eat prasad, then it is a spiritual activity. But when we just cook and we directly eat the food, then it is a material activity. Then it causes bondage. Then it is karma. So the activity is the same, eating, but the consciousness is different. Okay, when I cook, first I'm cooking because it's for the pleasure of the Lord. I offer it to the Lord. Now after the Lord has been offered, then I take the remnants of the Lord. So like that, the soul is spiritual. The nature of the soul is to perform devotional service to Krishna. Its karma is the material body or its conditioned nature. We are getting this material body because of our fruitive activities. Therefore, we are conditioned. The soul by nature doesn't go through birth, death, disease, and old age, but we are conditioned. We are forced to grow old. We are forced to die. We are forced to get disease. So therefore, this is the condition state which we are in by having this material body. Now, living entity is called marginal entity. Now, previously we saw that the living entity belongs to Krishna's superior nature. But if you want to get even more technical, then actually the living entity belongs to Krishna's marginal energy, not superior energy, but marginal energy. We are in between superior and inferior. Material nature belongs to Krishna's inferior energy, right? And we belong to Krishna's superior marginal energy. So what does that mean? Why marginal energy? Is because we have the tendency to become conditioned. That which is completely spiritual will never become conditioned. For example, Krishna's abode is always spiritual. And Krishna's eternal associates, they are eternally on the liberated platform. But the jiva, the living entities who are prone to fall down, who are prone to coming in touch with material nature, therefore, they are called as the marginal entities. So what happens when the living entity identifies with matter? Will take any one of the 8,400,000 bodies, or 84 lakh we say in Hindi. No? So there are 8,400,000 different kinds of bodies between aquatics and human beings and trees and animals and birds. So like that, there are 8,400,000 different kinds of bodies that are available according to what one desires and what one deserves. What is the basis of transmigration? Karma. What kind of activities we are performing? We saw in the Falashruti story, how the Brahmanas, they misbehaved and therefore they become Brahma Rakshas. And for elevation to heaven, then they perform yagyas. But of course, Krishna conscious viewpoint is we don't want to do yagyas in order to go to heaven. We want to go back home, back to Godhead, because this is supreme intelligence. Even from heaven, one can come back after an extended period of time. But if one goes to the spiritual world, then one does not have to come back. See, here, one may say that there is a contradiction by Krishna. It appears to be a contradiction. For example, in 7.29, Krishna says, intelligent persons who are endeavoring for liberation from old age and death take refuge in me in devotional service. They are actually Brahman because they entirely know everything about transcendental activities. So who are Brahman here? Krishna is saying those people who take refuge in me in devotional service, those people who are doing bhakti, they are Brahman. Krishna said in 7.29. But in 8.3, he is referring to all the jivas, all the living entities as Brahman. So it appears there is a contradiction. How to understand this?
they're talking about two different Brahman. One is that is the internal soul, Main Brahmasmi, something like that, which is the internal spirit soul. And then they're talking about the other Brahman, which is like the Brahman.
No, soul is soul. No, you're on the wrong track. Okay. So jivas who are not engaged in devotional service are constitutionally Brahman, characteristically not Brahman. What does that mean? Constitutionally, we are all parts and parcels of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We are all parts and parcels of God. So therefore, constitutionally, we are all spiritual. Constitutionally, we are all Brahman. But characteristically, we are not Brahman in the sense that if a jiva does not engage in devotional service, then although constitutionally he is Brahman, he is spiritual because he's a part and parcel of God, because he's not engaging in devotional service, because he is not behaving in accordance to what is his constitutional position, he is engaging in sinful activity, then characteristically he is not Brahman, he is not spiritual. Now let's take an example. For example, if somebody on paper is the managerial head of the organization, right? But he comes to the office, he just punches his card. He is not doing any administrative duties. He is not doing any work with regard to what his position requires him to do. And everybody else who's working under him is doing the work. And then when he exits, again, he just leaves and he's getting his salary because he's the son of the managing director. So now constitutionally, yes, he is an employee and he is the head of the organization, but characteristically he is not, because he is not doing the work it requires. So like that, all the jivas constitutionally, yes, are Brahman because we are all parts and parcels of the Lord. But because we are not engaging in seva, we are not engaging in devotional service, we are not behaving according to our constitutional position, characteristically, we are not Brahman. Okay, so if one gets confused that, okay, there are two contrasting statements by Krishna in 7.29 and 8.3, this is how we have to understand. Let's go to the fourth shloka.
अधिभूतं क्षरो भावः पुरुषश्चाधिदैवतम् अधियज्ञोऽहमेवात्र देहे देहभृतां वर.
Translation. O best of the embodied beings, the physical nature, which is constantly changing, is called Adibhuta, the material manifestation. The universal form of the Lord, which includes all the demigods, like those of the sun and the moon, is called Adidaiva. And I, the Supreme Lord, represented as the Super Soul in the heart of every embodied being, I am called Adi Yanya, the Lord of sacrifice.
So here Krishna is answering the other three questions of Arjuna. What is he answering? Adi Bhuta, he's explaining Adi Daiva, and he's explaining where does Adi Daiva reside. I'm sorry, the other two questions here. So what is Adi Bhuta? The physical nature, which is constantly changing, which is the material world. The material world or the material manifestation, Krishna says, is Adi Bhuta. Then Adi Daiva, the universal form of the Lord, the Virat Purusha, which includes all the Devatas, which includes all the demigods. So we know when Krishna showed the universal form, all the Devatas Arjuna could see in that universal form. So Krishna is saying that universal form of the Lord, which includes all the demigods, like the sun and the moon, is called Adi Daiva. Okay. So then Arjuna asks, where does he reside? So Krishna is saying that I, the Supreme Lord, represented as a super soul in the heart of every embodied being, am called Adi Yagya. So where does he reside? Also Krishna is answering. Where does he reside? In the heart of every embodied being. So this includes from the first created living being, which is Lord Brahma, down to the smallest ant. So where does he reside? In the heart of every embodied being. How many questions are left to be answered?
One only.
Only one, yes. So here is a summary. Adi Bhuta, constantly changing physical world. It always deteriorates, the body dwindles. We know that anything that's material will not remain fresh, evergreen, will not remain forever. It will deteriorate. That's why our body deteriorates. We grow old, we get disease because it is material. If one has a spiritual body, then there is no question of any deterioration. There is no question of birth, death, disease, and old age. Krishna's body is completely spiritual. Therefore, he eternally resides as a 16-year-old boy in Golok Vrindavan. Krishna does not become old. Have you ever seen a photo of Krishna as an old man? Have you ever seen a photo like that? No, because Krishna
No.
eternally resides as a 16-year-old boy. Then Adi Daiva, the universal form, which includes all the devatas and all the different planetary systems. And Adi Yagya is the enjoyer of sacrifice. So when we do yagyas, ultimate beneficiary of those yagyas is Krishna only. It is all going to Krishna. So where does he reside? Paramatma. So he's residing as a Paramatma in every embodied being. Okay, so this is showing how physical nature is constantly changing. Material body goes through 6 stages. Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport. What are the 6 stages of the body? We are born, then we grow, then we remain for some duration, that is the youth. Then we produce byproducts, which is our children. No? The body's byproducts are the children. Then there is dwindling, then there is old age, and then there is death. Finally, they vanish. So these are the 6 stages of the material bodies. But a spiritual body does not go through such changes. So this is explaining Adi Daiva, how all the demigods, all the devatas are there in this universal form. When this universal form was displayed to Arjuna, the sky was completely covered. Any direction that Arjuna was seeing, he was only seeing the universal form. He could not see the sky at all. He could not see anything else. Every direction he was seeing, he was only seeing the universal form. It was so big. So as the Paramatma, there are 2 functions that Krishna does. What is that? Upadrishta and Anumanta. He is the overseer and the permitter. He sanctions the activities of the living entities, and he also oversees. He sees every single thing that we are doing. Therefore, we cannot cheat Krishna. When somebody steals or robs or does something wrong, the robber thinks that, okay, nobody is watching me. He will look left and right and say, okay, nobody is watching me, and now is the time to rob. No, but Krishna is there in your heart. He's there as a Paramatma, and he's seeing every single activity that we do. So one may ask, okay, why is Krishna saying all this to Arjuna now? What does the need to explain all these terms, Adi Yagya and Adi Daiva and all those things? Why is Krishna saying all this to Arjuna now? Why does Arjuna have to know that he is a supreme lord of all the planets, that he is a supreme lord of all the material manifestations? Why does Arjuna have to know all this now? What is the context? Where is Arjuna? He's in a war, isn't it? He's on a battlefield. Right in the middle of the battlefield, why does Arjuna have to know this? So that Arjuna can fight with the consciousness that Krishna is.
Because everything is happening as per his will.
Yes, so therefore Arjuna should consider himself to be just an instrument. Just fight because Krishna wants you to fight. Krishna is supreme. You just fight because Krishna wants you to fight. No, so because knowing Krishna as a supreme lord in these ways allows Arjuna to become his servant even on the battlefield and to fight on the supreme spiritual Brahman platform is his actual identity. So Krishna is saying, okay, your identity is that you are my servant. So just fight as a servant, just follow the instructions of the master. So such activities will produce no karma. There will be no karmic reaction to these activities because Arjuna is only following the instructions of his superior. Just like how on a war-like situation, if the superior tells the soldier, shoot, he will just shoot. He is not going to be tried in the court of law for shooting down the enemy, isn't it? But if we shoot on our own, because we want to shoot someone on the road, then we will be tried in the court of law. Right. So here, just because Arjuna is going to fight under the instruction of Krishna, he is not going to receive any karmic reaction, and therefore he will not develop another material body. So Arjuna can now focus his mind on Krishna, just focus on Krishna and fight the war. Therefore, Krishna is telling all this to Arjuna. So with this, we come to the end of section 1, where Krishna has answered all of Arjuna's questions except one. That last crucial question we will see in the next class in section 2, if Krishna so sanctions. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Does anybody have a question?
I have a question. Basically, it's a little confusion. Here, multiple times throughout the Bhagavad Gita, we keep telling about Brahman, that and there is other context. We also tell that if a Brahman, like in the story, if a Brahman dies, it is he performs more sin. But the next slides, we learn that we all are Brahman. So they are contextually different, or we all are Brahmans, or it is like one time it is the Brahmans who are born in the, like, who are born as Brahman to Brahmin parents, or how it is?
Okay, so there are two. See, these two words, they sound similar. The spelling also is the same, but they have two different meanings. One, Brahman, is spiritual, what we saw now, where Krishna is saying that all the jivas are Brahman, which means all the jivas are spiritual. That is one meaning of that term. And the other Brahmana is of the Varnashram system, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. That is the other Brahmana who are born in Brahman families and they misbehave and then they are born. Today we saw how they are born as Brahma Rakshas. So there are two different meanings, there are two different terms. Here in today's 4 verses, what we saw, that Brahman means spiritual. That word Brahman means spiritual. And that other Brahman is of the Varnashram system. There are two different
Okay,
meanings.
so to at the different contests, the meaning changes.
Yes, yes.
Okay, okay,
Exactly.
thank you.
You're welcome. And another Brahman is Brahman effulgence. When we say Brahman effulgence, is the effulgence that is coming out of the body of Sri Krishna.
Okay.
Okay, what else?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Krishna consciousness devotee knows Krishna as Supreme Personality of Godhead, or as the thing you mentioned on in chapter 8. The
Oh, this question is from the exam paper, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, the answer is there in the purport.
It says the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but the verse says the 3.
You answer from the purport, Shri Hari Radha Mataji.
Oh, Hare Krishna.
Okay, what else? In all the exams, the verse number is given. So you answer according to what is there in that particular purport, in that particular translation. We don't have to refer to other books because this knowledge is very vast and there are several books. So you read that particular, you read the Bhagavad Gita, you read that particular purport and you answer according to that purport. There is no need to get confused with other books and other verses because then it will never end. It's infinite. Okay. Okay, what else do we need to discuss? Today is the last day to submit the exam. So I hope you can all submit it. If you have a problem and you're not able to submit on time, you can always submit late. But then, of course, you will have to sacrifice the 8 marks. Because many of you this time asked for extensions. So I want to say that yes, extension, you can submit later. You may have some issues. But then because we want to respect the people who are submitting on time, therefore we are giving 8 marks for those who are submitting on time. Because we also see if I allow people to submit late and then they are getting the same marks, then that means I am punishing those who are submitting on time and rewarding those who are submitting late, which is not the correct system, isn't it? So we
You are
don't
right.
do that. So we don't want to do that. So therefore, we have the system of giving 8 marks extra if one is submitting on time. All right, then. Have a nice week in Krishna consciousness. See you all next week if Krishna so sanctions. Vancha kalpatarovyascha kripa sindhu vevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Sanam. Hare Krishna.
Easiest
Hare
8 months
Krishna.
of my life.